Hello everyone. When we talk about earthquakes, we usually refer to the big ones, the ones which cause damage, destruction, and death. For example, the one in Turkey last year, or the 2019 Ridgecrest earthquake in California, or the 2015 Nepal earthquake. But are these events that frequent? Luckily, no. Let's consider United States. In last 10 years, how many big earthquakes with magnitude above 7 we have seen in the US? The answer is only one. That's the one in Ridgecrest, California in 2019. But do you know that at the same time, there were nearly 80,000 earthquakes in the US with magnitude above 2, and possibly 1 million of those if we consider all the magnitudes. But why we do not talk about those earthquakes? Because those are very small. We can barely feel them, and most of those hardly cause any damage to us. So, should we ignore something which is not affecting us? Actually, no. Because these small earthquakes can give us really important details about our planet. Why do I say that? You might know that earthquakes generate waves, and those waves travel through the earth. Using those waves, we can scan and look inside the earth where we cannot visit ourselves. You might consider this like a CAT scan, but done for our planet. In a CAT scan, the X-rays travel through the body and provides an internal image. Similarly here, those waves are traveling through the earth. We can track their speed, and based on that speed, we can interpret what type of material is inside and how the interior looks like. Now, you might have a question here like how the small earthquakes are relevant here. The thing is, the more waves we have from different directions, that means more earthquakes we can use, the better and more robust that imaging will be. Here we do not care about how big or how small those earthquakes are. The only thing matters here is how fast or how slow those waves are traveling through the earth. So, if we have thousands of small earthquakes, those will give us a much better picture, much sharper picture compared to a few big ones. Let's look at an example. This is a result of such imaging underneath the Yellowstone volcano in US. This picture is taken from a study done by Huang et al. In 2015 and published in the journal Science. This shows those red blobs, which means slower speed, and that indicates the magma that is stored underneath Yellowstone. But is that all? Not really. Now let's get back closer to the surface. You might know that earthquakes occur on fault lines. For example, the San Andreas fault line in California, which is known for big earthquakes. Now that one big earthquake might reveal enough details about that particular fault. But what about thousands of smaller faults here and there, where we have not seen big earthquakes and which are not that famous? However, if we can find those small earthquakes in those faults, that would give us details about those faults, their behavior, and what type of earthquakes we can expect on those faults. Everything sounds promising, but the problem here is these small earthquakes are very difficult to detect. In fact, a lot of these remain undetected forever. Because when we look at data, a big earthquake might have a very clear signal, but a small earthquake will not be that obvious. The signal from small earthquakes are usually hidden inside and covered by background noise. And traditional computer algorithms, they do not do a great job to find these earthquakes efficiently. So a solution can be to have a human, for example me, sitting in front of the screen, looking at the data and finding these earthquakes. That's possible, but with so much data we have right now, this would probably take months or years to do that. Thankfully, this is where artificial intelligence comes to our rescue. With years of research and contribution from so many scientists, the artificial intelligence models are now well trained to find these small earthquakes. In fact, with proper computational resources, they can do it in minutes or hours, which will take us probably months or years to do that thing. You might wonder, why am I so much invested in this process? That's because as a geophysics PhD student, this is what I do for my dissertation. In fact, in a study done in a certain section of Andes Mountains in South America, I found 10 times more earthquakes using AI compared to the previous studies. Using these newly found earthquakes, I'm trying to understand how the faults behave there, how the internal structures look like. This would lead us to a better understanding of how these giant mountain ranges like Andes form and how those are evolving over time. However, my study area is very remote, but we can extrapolate the same idea to a more populated area, for example, a city. If we find those small earthquakes on those cities, that would tell us where the active faults are. What can be the possible ground shaking pattern for a bigger earthquake? And also, if we can image the interior, that would tell us what type of materials we are sitting on, or if there is magma somewhere inside which can erupt and that can be dangerous for the city. So essentially, we can be better prepared for a big earthquake or a volcanic eruption. Speaking of that, closer to home, here in Arizona, we are actually collecting data in the volcanic field of northern Arizona close to the city of Flagstaff. We are trying to understand if there is magma somewhere underneath those volcanoes, which can be potentially dangerous to the city and its people. While doing that, someone asked us, "Why are you collecting earthquake data in Flagstaff? We do not have earthquakes here." That's a valid question, given Flagstaff is not known for big earthquakes. But that doesn't mean that there are not even the tiny ones. And certainly that doesn't tell us anything about what's underneath the surface and what is hidden over there. So, from big earthquakes to volcanic eruptions, waiting for that big event to happen is not the best way to go. Certainly, that's not the only way to go. And that's why we want to study these small earthquakes and think beyond those big ones. Thank you.